Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 edition of the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. Legacy in the Black Press. We continue our discussion about the passing of the torch and the family business with the chair of the National Newspaper Publicists Association and Houston Forward-Times publisher Karen Carter Richards and her daughter and Houston Forward-Times business manager and entertainment editor Chelsea Lenora. But first, we tackle the headlines this morning. A Georgia sheriff who recently closed the case of a 17-year-old student who was found dead in 2013 in a rolled-up gym mat announced Monday he is offering $500,000 of his own money to anyone who has information that leads to an arrest or conviction. Last month, Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk released a 16-page document concluding that Kendrick Johnson's death was an accident and no charges would be filed. Johnson's family said they believed the teen was murdered and that his death was covered up. They said in a statement after the release of my synopsis of the federal files on the Kendrick Johnson case, his parents have called me a liar and continue to state that Kendrick was murdered. That's what the statement from the former sheriff said in a news release. But because of these statements,
this is the sheriff department known to cover up things. When you had Willie Jane Williams laying inside this jailhouse, dying, and this same sheriff allegedly covered up what happened to Willie Jane Williams, and the same thing that he come back and trying to do now. Sheriff Ashley Polk, you didn't have anything to do with it, as you say. But the lies you put on this paper made you just a part of the cover-up and the conspiracy of what's going on in my son's case.
Yeah, that's the father, of course, and it's a case that's always bothered many, including those in law enforcement, to find this young man's body rolled up in a mat, and they ruled that to be an accidental death. They said that he had somehow gotten into the mat and got entangled, but there's a lot of questions that still surround that, obviously, and now the sheriff is putting up a $500,000 reward. We'll continue to bring you information on that as it develops. More than a dozen HBCUs received bomb threats again yesterday. The threats, the second such in 2 days, arrived on the first day of Black History Month. Howard University in Washington, D.C. again found itself the target of such ominous threats. The school issued a shelter-in-place order on Tuesday. A bomb threat against the university is being investigated, read an alert at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Time. All persons on campus are advised to shelter in place until more information is available, according to that alert. The school later issued an all clear. The University of the District of Columbia, Morgan State University, and Coppin State University in Baltimore, Fort Valley State University in Georgia, Kentucky State University, Xavier University, also Edward Waters University in Jacksonville, Florida, Alcorn State University, Mississippi Valley State University, also Spelman College, a whole list. Jackson State University also received threats. But it's the second time or the third time now within a month that schools, HBCUs, were forced to either cancel classes, shelter in place, or suspend operations because of a bomb threat. Morgan State University president also confirmed a bomb threat and said basically that people kept asking him, is this true? And he said, unfortunately, yes, I can verify that it was a bomb threat at our school. The Black and Missing Foundation continues to search for the missing, and Black History Month is no better time to help bring closure to the distraught and desperate families of those who have gone missing. Today, we lift up a couple of those whom the Black and Missing Foundation has put out recent alerts for, including Joy Thompson Webb, who went missing on January 17th in Buena Park, California. According to her family, Joy met an unknown male online and booked a flight to visit him in another country. She hasn't been seen since. Joy is 52 years old. She has freckles on her face, naturally red shoulder-length hair. She stands 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighs about 185 pounds. She has brown eyes and wears glasses. Anyone with information is asked to please call police at 714-562-3901 or go to www.bamfi.org. And also, an alert for Laurie Ann Page has circulated. Last seen in the Sandtown, Winchester area of Baltimore, Laurie Ann Page went missing on January 14th. She is 58 years old and was wearing a long coat, black jeans, and tennis shoes. According to family members, Laurie Ann suffered a brain aneurysm several years ago and is mentally unstable. She is 5'5" and weighs about 100 pounds. She has black and gray hair, medium length. They want to highlight that it's medium length hair, brown eyes, and her left eye is described as lazy-eyed. Anyone with information is asked to call authorities at 410-396-2477 or visit www.bamfi.org, where you can remain anonymous and provide information, hopefully vital information, that can bring these women home to their families. This morning, Black Press Legacy, the legacy of the Black press. We're 195 years old now. This is the 195th anniversary of the Black press. And last month, we brought you some publishers who have been, where the business have been passed down to them, and or they are now in the process of either passing the business down to their siblings or children, or even sharing space with them, bringing them into the business. This morning, we welcome the chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association and the publisher of the Houston Forward-Times, Karen Carter Richards, and her daughter, Lenora, Chelsea Lenora, let's say that, all right, who's the business manager and the entertainment editor. Good morning, Karen Carter Richards and Chelsea Lenora.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So thanks so much for joining us. First, obviously, we start with Karen Carter Richards. Karen, we know, well, many of us know your story and how you came to be publisher of the Houston Forward-Times. Perhaps you can briefly talk about that, and then we can talk to Chelsea Lenora about her role at the paper and you know the new generation of the Black press.
Well, Stacey, you ought to know when we didn't have a choice coming up. We were forced. Yeah, we started working at the paper. My father was the founder. I'll give you a little brief backstory. Father was founded the paper in January 1960. Him and my mother ran the paper of many years. When we were kids, we had baskets on our bicycles, and we had to deliver the paper in the neighborhood. I was about 7 years old. So, like I said, we didn't have a choice. You had to work. And I remember my mother and father always said you had to learn everything from the front door to the back door. And they made sure that we did that. Unfortunately, my father died in January 1970, and my mom took on the paper, 29 years old, 2 little girls, and ran it successfully. But she had some hard times, of course, you know, a male-dominated industry. But she ran the paper through its 50th year. She passed in April 2010, and I had shadowed her for like 38 years. And, you know, unfortunately, I had to step in, and never thought I wanted to do this without her. But, you know, it just kicked in that, you know, all that she had taught.
Yeah, I think we.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think we lost
Anyway.
her.
There she is.
Okay. We lost
my
you
children joined me shortly after that. Chelsea does. Chelsea's a business manager, and they're with me every day, and it reminds me of me and my mom. You know, sometimes she'll come across the hall and sit at my desk, and I used to do the same thing for my mom. She sits on the opposite side of my desk and just sit there, and I'll say, "What are you doing in here?" But I love it. You know, my experience growing up in the paper, you know, my mom kind of wanted things the way she wanted them.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to, you know, I mean, I had some input, but you know, Stacey, how these publishers are. But my daughter, you know, me coming up in that, I'm like to listen to my daughter. I mean,
Yeah.
these young people have some great ideas. She gives me a whole different perspective on a lot of the issues that are coming up with the paper. So I enjoy having her there, but I still give her room to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's working. Challenging sometimes, but it's working. I'm like, where are you going?
It is.
But no, it's great having her there with me.
Well, Lenora, first of all, we know we know you're busy, Karen, but we know Lenora, she's a recording artist, and also she is your business manager and entertainment editor. You see, and have seen, Lenora, the struggles of Black newspapers and the Black press, but yet you're still giving your time. You're still involved. You're heavily involved with your mom's newspaper. Why is that?
It's, you know what? It was so funny when she was speaking. I was like, oh my goodness, history repeats itself in a way, because the same way that she kind of didn't have a choice, it was the kind of a similar thing with me. When I graduated from college in 2013, all of my friends I went to first of all, I went to Loyola University, New Orleans, and a lot of my friends, when we were graduating, were like going on, a boat to Amalfi Coast, just like doing crazy stuff. And I asked my mom at graduation, okay, so what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do after graduation? She was like, you're going to come to work on Monday. And I was like, so it was a similar thing. I grew up in the business, and always just understood the importance of it. I think there was a sense of obligation, a sense of duty, because this was the business that had taken care of me my entire life. You know what I mean? It was a business that was here before I was born, a business that was started by my grandfather, who I didn't even get a chance to meet because he died 20 years before I was born. So it was almost a connection to him too. You know what I mean? Just to sort of extend his vision. And I'm not going to lie, it was troubling at times, or not troubling, but hard to balance everything at times, just because being a musician and then being there. But I think recently I found synergy between the two, like true synergy. And I've learned how to make one work for the other, because now being in the industry, being in this business, I'm able to make certain calls, get certain interviews, get certain, things for, the paper, and vice versa. I'm able to get certain resources from the paper and bring them back over here. So it all works out.
Yeah.
I think we lost my mom. Did we lose her? I know she said we couldn't hear. She couldn't hear her. She couldn't hear us.
Well, also, she's here, and also joining us is the president and CEO of the Nnpa, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. Dr. Chavis, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And we really are very grateful for this particular show. This is about the Black press. This is 195th year of the Black press, and on behalf of the 230 African-American owned newspapers, we're so pleased that we're focusing on not only the past history of the Black press, but the relevance today. I would say that the Black press in 2022 is needed more today than 195 years ago. The importance of the Black church, the Black family, the Black press. And, and I think we have to do everything we can to amplify the voice of the Black community. And certainly what Karen Carter Richards and what Chelsea is doing with the Forward Times has an impact not only in Houston, Texas, but across the state of Texas and in our country. And that's why I'm so proud of the Black press.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to Lenora, because there's, based on the history, right? You ran down the history. Your mom ran down the history. It must be a bit of pressure for you, right?
Yes and no, in a sense. I think that my mom has done such an incredible job just bringing, what's the word? She brings a certain groundedness to her role that makes it easy to kind of come on board. You know what I mean? She's a great teacher. I mean, I think to an extent, at first I felt this pressure, but I think now it's natural, and I think that she's a great teacher. So I don't feel as much of that pressure anymore. I think I feel excited now. I feel excited about what's next and what that looks like for the Black press. You know what I mean? I think I'm probably obviously much more passionate and an avid supporter of the Black press because I'm a member of the Black press, you know, than a lot of people my age. But I always say that the Black press is not only not obsolete, but the Black press is relevant. The Black press, like Dr. Chavis said, is more necessary now than it was then. So, you know.
And Karen, so you mentioned how sophisticated the younger ones are, your daughter, of course. How important is it for you to have gotten Chelsea involved and for other newspapers in the Black press to get their younger ones, the younger generation involved?
You know, like I said, I've been doing this a really long time, and the language has changed in this industry. The industry has changed. I don't think, I know I wouldn't have made it without these young people around me, because they have a way of making sure I can understand it. My daughter's on both sides. Just she knows the print side, you know, all that I've taught her, but she knows how it has to relate to the digital world and attract the young people coming behind us that had no clue about the Black press, and that's real. And so Chelsea and the other ones at the office like her are able to help us to tell our story and get young people involved, but in a different way. You know, I've learned so much in the digital world. We've built a studio at the office, and I have young people out of videographers and online personalities, and so it's bringing them into our world, and they're bringing us into their world.
Yeah, and Lenora, so folks your age, your peers, when you talk to them about the Black press, what's the response like? And do you find yourself really having to inform them, or are they already informed?
It's really humbling because a lot of them, the thing that I get all the time is, wow, we didn't even know, you know, because a lot of young people now are just receiving and retaining information differently. You know, they're receiving and retaining information solely, you know, online. And so a lot of them, their parents or their grandparents, you know, may be familiar, but they aren't as familiar. But I also recognize a certain a need for them to want to know more, right? Like a thirst for that. And so once they find out, they want to get on board as to how to support. You know, they want to subscribe, they want to follow, they want to lend a hand, they want to help. So I think that young people want to be involved, but they're figuring out how to be involved. And so that's why, you know, to double back to the question you asked me a couple minutes ago, Stacey, when you asked about the pressure, when my mom was speaking, I was like, you know what? And I don't know if pressure is a good word for it, but I have a sense of urgency now. And I know my mom would agree with me. Like lately, I'm very focused on the next phase. So anytime we're speaking, I'm always talking about what's next. I'm always talking about what that looks like. I'm always talking about contingency. I'm always talking about evolution and what that looks like in 2022 for us and beyond, right? Because we have to look ahead, because what works now may not work in the future. And I think instead of being fearful of that, I think I've gotten to a place now where I'm excited about that and figuring out how to cement ourselves in an ever-changing world, because we know that we're a trusted voice and we know that we have something that is pertinent, essential, and you know what I mean, to offer. So I think that's the only sense of kind of urgency I feel, is just what's next and what that looks like.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to mention a couple of comments we got here in the stream. David Youngblood mentions that education now does not incorporate newspapers in classrooms anymore. And Celeste Hart followed that up by saying, remember the weekly current event assignments. And that really touches me because this is how I got my start, right? I was in first grade, and I remember it so well. I can tell you my teacher's name, Mrs. Ribner. And I used to I grew up in New York and used to carry all of the newspapers in New York. And, you know, there's like so many New York newspapers, including the Amsterdam News. And I used to carry that to school. And when we would have gym or lunch or whatever, while everyone's playing or eating, I'm reading the newspaper. And so my teacher gave me the nickname Mr. Media and had me read current events. So we don't have that in schools. That Dr. Chavis, the fact that we don't have these newspapers, as David Youngblood mentions here in schools. How do we get around that and impress upon the younger ones? Because it really that was all I ever thought about was newspapers when I was 6 years old.
Exactly. Well, you remember, education starts first at the home before you get to the school. So I think every home, every parent listening, the future of the Black press is that it's intergenerational. And I think every Black family should have a subscription to a Black newspaper, so that you first start to read at home before you get to school. And then I think we need to get more African Americans in the school system who are administrators, who are decision makers. I think that, for example, Karen Carter Richards and I were talking yesterday about this is Black History Month. A lot of our newspapers doing special editions, where school systems will buy those special editions and distribute into their classroom, because a lot of them don't have the content for Black History Month. You'd be surprised. Teachers now have to sometimes, because of the shortage of supplies and everything is virtual now, and a lot of our newspapers are also online. So I think the accessibility of the Black press, actually with technology, is more accessible today than it was when you were in elementary school, Stacey. So I think we have to make sure that we utilize technology to advance our progress in the Black press. Some people used to thought that, well, technology is going to put the Black press out of business. No, technology is going to complement and sustain the Black press, where we continue to print, we continue to be online, we continue to do our digital, we continue to do social media. And I think a point that Chelsea made earlier about culture, identity, you know, the Black press, we would not have the preservation of Black culture today if it were not for the Black press. And so as our culture continues to evolve, all of our institutions have to evolve, like HBCUs, like the Black church. But the key thing is the Black family. I think the reason why we're having this program today is because you have a strong Black family that has now passed this important news organ on from generation to generation. And what Chelsea, in terms of the future, has to plan, how's the generation behind Generation Z, coming behind millennials, how will they continue to, so that you forecast a future way into the future by what you deposit in today, present.
Yeah, and I want Chelsea to respond to that. Before you do, let me just mention a couple of comments. My sister, Dr. Nicole, is watching. She says PS 155. Yeah, that's where I went. PS 155 in Queens, New York. David Youngblood says we had Jet, Ebony, The Informer, and any Black piece of ink we find about Black people. And Sherlock Barnes, the public of the Washington Informer, says, "Thank you, Chelsea, for receiving the Black press and carrying it forward. The future is yours to shape. I put you, Karen, for your lesson in leadership." So, Chelsea, I want to go back to what Dr. Chavis said. How are you helping to shape the future? 195 years is quite the legacy, but I'm sure as you and your mom have already alluded to, you're a forward thinker. How do we get through the next 195 years?
You know, it's so funny. I find that as I'm asking myself that question and working on finding a solution to that question, I find that the answer is not new. You know, it's not about inventing the wheel. It's literally about, my mom and I have been putting an emphasis on what made, for instance, our publication, what made Forward Times in its inception, right? What was Forward Times' mission? And when we get back to that, which is to highlight the Black family, to highlight Black culture, to highlight positive community stories in the Black community that the dailies weren't highlighting, and to give us a sense of pride. When we go back there, when we go back to pride, when we go back to preservation, these are things that we still need today, now more than ever. So I think that we're going back to that mission and just packaging it differently. So I think that it's not a new answer to that question. Honestly, I'm going to get back to, and we are getting back to, just being more of a voice presence with our community. So that's involving our community more, right? So it's unity, it's togetherness, it's all of those things. And I think that, like I said, it's just about not packaging it differently. I guess I should say, understanding the climate, right? So understanding the medium. That's all it is. It's just taking what we have, what we've done, what we still need, who we are, and putting that in today's current climate, you know? So I don't think there's anything new under the sun.
Yeah. And Karen, so you obviously, just to piggyback off that, you've seen so much, your as Chelsea said, your I guess your father, and of course your mom, and now you got your daughters in the business. What advice would you give to other publishers and their families as far as keeping this legacy alive?
I think you have to involve them. And, you know, I think I've seen my children, especially Chelsea Lenora, she changed. I mean, when she was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, she didn't understand certain things. She didn't understand why we wrote certain articles a certain way, or Chelsea's this happy spirit, and she didn't get it.
I was like, why are they so mad?
But I think to include them and to you know, you can't just say do it this way because I said do it this way, which I wanted to do a lot, but you have to involve them. And I think when Chelsea saw our response to, I think I saw a big change in my kids when we celebrated our 50th anniversary. It was shortly after my mother passed, and I don't think they knew. We're celebrating 62 years now, but at our 50th anniversary, I don't think they knew the mark we had made here in the city, and how people respected the paper and our family and all that, you know, our family and Forward Times. I include my Chavis family, because they have contributed a lot themselves to, you know, any Black newspaper knows what that's like. Your staff is your family, because they, you know, they go through as much as we go through. But I think that I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but I think including is key, and letting them hear the ideas. But that's what I saw the change in my kids. Like, you know what? Look at how the community is responding to our family. And Chelsea was speaking earlier about nothing's new under the sun. You know, we go back to our binders sometimes and look, and from the 60s and the 70s, and what the Black press was to the community. And I think it's very important that we get back to that and not try to be like mainstream media, because we have a niche market. And that's why Dr. Chavis and I were talking, while our advertisers seeing that only we can talk to our community, like talk to our community. So when we get back to some of the things of our community and touching our community and letting them know we're there, I think that will be a lifeline for the Black press.
Well, you know, you mentioned the 50th anniversary being a turning point for your children, Karen. I remember when we had the Nnpa had the convention there in Houston, and what really stood out for me was when we was going on the buses to one of the events, we had a police escort. The Black press had a police escort. That was so impressive to me, and it still sticks out in my mind, obviously. But Jackie Hampton is watching from the Mississippi Link, and she says it's very refreshing to see Chelsea willing and ready to continue the future of the family's legacy. Absolutely.
Yes.
Dr. Chavis, I know we're running out of time, so I want to throw it to you, and then we're going to give Chelsea and Karen Richards their last words.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I'm glad she's our national secretary of the Nnpa, as well as a distinguished publisher of the Mississippi link. And her family, I wish you could see her family in Mississippi that gives Jackie a helping hand. Listen, I think that yesterday while I'm still in Houston, I had a great discussion with Bishop Dixon, one of the leading pastors here in Houston, and we were talking about the identity crisis in Black America today. I'm talking about 2022, and the way we always resolve our identity challenge: who are we? What is our purpose? Not only in America but in the world. We have to go back to our origin. And 195 years ago, Russ Warm and Cornish said it best. We have to plead our own cause. And we plead our own cause in the mediums and the using the technology of today. But the cause of self-respect, the cause of self-determination, the cause of freedom, justice, and equality, these are eternal. And that's why they lose continuity. So proud of the Black press. And we're going to help turn things around in 2022. We're going to get that vote out. We're going to make a difference, not only in Texas and Mississippi, in Washington, D.C., across the country. We're going to make a big, big difference. And the Black press is going to, along with the Black church and the Black family, is going to help make it happen.
Thanks, Dr. Chavis. Karen Carter Richards, your closing thoughts today on the legacy of the Houston Forward-Times and the legacy of the Black press.
I'm just truly blessed to sit here and listen to my daughter. We work together every day, but it's a wonderful feeling too. And I know that feeling because my mom felt that way about me. When you see your children carry on legacy that you have worked so hard for, you know, my mother and father worked hard for, that I've worked hard for. And to see her speak so eloquently about the Black press, I'm proud.
Absolutely. And Chelsea, the youngest one, the last word.
Wow, I can't, I'm kidding. This is new. Okay. No, I just want to say, first of all, Stacey, thank you for having us today. This conversation is super important. I'm always open. Like I said, there's nobody else in the world and no other cause in the world that'll have me up this early talking on camera. But legacy, I just want to close by talking about the importance of legacy and ownership in our community. People my age, people younger, people older than me, understand the importance of legacy. Don't sell your business. Don't sell your assets. Understand that there is a generation after you and a generation after them that will benefit from the work that you do. And the work that you do is important. So make sure that it's meaningful and preserve that legacy.
Thanks so much, Chelsea Lenora and Karen Carter Richards of the Houston Forward-Times. We appreciate you all watching. We will see you tomorrow.